Okay, so we're going to talk about one-point perspective. Okay, so perspective really is just a way of creating the illusion of deep space on a flat surface. Okay, so really anytime that you've done that, anytime that you have things behind each other, anytime that you've created any sort of space, you're in some way using some sort of perspective. All right, we refer to a lot of depth and things like proportion and things like that. But what we're going to focus on is a singular type of perspective. It's actually a singular part of linear perspective. So linear perspective means that everything's going to converge at a given point. Okay. So the first thing we need is a horizon line. All right. This right here, all right, would be the horizon line. Okay. Then anywhere along that line, we're going to put a point. Okay, so it can be anywhere on that line. For right now, we're just putting it in the middle. All right, so that is called our vanishing point. Okay, so that is where everything is going to converge. Okay, now right now we're going to worry about making opaque objects, all right, or opaque forms. So that means these are solid things. We can't see through them. Okay, so the rule of thumb for this is going to be that we're going to make a line until it interrupts or intersects with another shape. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take all the corners of a given shape and we're going to connect it back with that point. So if I go up to this square here, okay, I'm going to line up, and we have to use a straight edge. It doesn't have to be a ruler, it has to be something with a straight edge. Okay, we're not going to just freehand this, and we're going to draw this line back. All right, that's called a guiding line. All right, we're then going to go to the next one. Okay, and we're going to do it again. We're then going to go to the next one, and we're going to do it again. Now, when we go to this one, all right, the first thing that line's going to do is it's going to intersect with the shape. If I were to draw this line, it's going to cut right through the shape. So based on the rule I just said, we're not going to make that line. Okay, so that's the first part of it. We can leave it just like that as the most simple form of perspective. Okay, it's something that's going back into space. Now, if I wanted to cut it off, all right, if I don't want it to go all the way back to this point when it's all said and done, or I wanted to make rows of it, I need to repeat this angle somewhere back here. Okay, so because this line goes straight up and down, this line has to go straight up and down. Okay, because this line goes straight horizontal, this line has to go straight horizontal. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, sometimes people will do. Okay, sorry about that. We got cut off by the morning announcements. So what I was saying was, sometimes people, and I don't know why they do this, but instead of making this line straight, they'll do something like this. All right, and then instead of making this line, they'll do all sorts of things like that. So you can see how clearly wrong that is. Okay, if this is what it's supposed to be and that's what it is. So whatever that angle is, that's what has to repeat back here. Okay, now at this point, I can do a couple things. I can either completely erase all those guiding lines and just keep this as a floating shape, all right, or I can come back here, all right, and make another angle and make a row of them. Okay, one thing I can do is I can take this and I can break this so that there's this floating rectangular prism and then another one behind it. In that case, what I do need is I need to go back to that corner. Okay, I need to take that corner, and I don't want to draw all the way through this. I just want to go back and make a line where I need it. Okay, because all I want to do is mark where that corner is going to intersect. Now I do this angle back here. So I go to that line, and then I go to this, and then I go in there and I erase. Okay? Then I would erase the guiding lines between that. All right, and now what I have is I've got the shape that just broke off. Okay? I've got something like that. All right, so that's how easy that one is. Okay? Now, one thing to keep in mind is, depending on the position of your shape in relation to both the horizon line and the vanishing point, is going to tell you automatically what parts you're going to see. Okay, you can see that because this shape is to the right of the vanishing point, okay, and above the horizon line, we see the opposite. We see the left side and we see the bottom of that shape, okay? So looking at this one down here, we can look at this and say, okay, it's to the right and below, so we're going to see the left and the top. All right, so whatever it is, you know, you're going to see the opposite. So just knowing that going in sometimes helps. So if I go back here, all right, I connect these just like I did, even if it's really thin. All right, I connect that. All right, I'm not going to do this one, right, because I'm just going to cut through. Okay, I would do the same thing now. All right, if I want to cut it off, I repeat this same straight line back here. All right, this one, same straight line back here. All right, now when these are really thin like this is where people really tend to mess up. All right, because it feels wrong putting that really skinny line inside that skinny shape. You just have to trust it. Okay, all right. Now, if we have something that is directly to one side or other of the vanishing point, but overlaps the horizon line, all right, if it overlaps the horizon line, we're not going to see the top or the bottom of it, but it's to the left of the vanishing point. So all we're going to see over here is the right side, okay? All right, and then if we wanted to break that off, we would just repeat this line back here somewhere, okay? And then we would go back and erase everything in or beyond that, okay? We want to keep that horizon line in there. And then erase all the horizon line inside that shape, okay? Because again, we're making solid shapes, right? We don't want translucent or transparent shapes right now, okay? So anything that has corners, we're just connecting those corners, okay? Where it gets tricky sometimes is rounded shapes, okay? So what we're going to do with these rounded shapes is we're going to put our ruler or our straight edge on the vanishing point, and we're just going to slide it towards that shape until we hit it. All right, that's going to be our outermost edge, and then we're just going to go from there, okay? We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to line it up at the vanishing point, all right, and then just slowly slide it in until we just hit that thing, hit that shape, all right, and that's our outermost edge. Now, at that point, what we really have is we have a cone that's going back, okay? Some people might look at that and see like a spotlight, like the Batman symbol or something like that, okay? If we're making a cylinder going back in shape, okay, then what we need to do is we need to replicate this curve, all right? Just like we would replicate this line or this angle, we got to replicate this curve. So again, this is something where people mess up a lot. They do things like this, all right? You should be able to see that that's not the same curve, okay? So what we have to do is we have to really try to replicate that curve as best we can. What you can do, some little trick is, if you come back here and just make that circle and keep making it and put your pencil down, you'll get that curve, okay? Now, if I want to go and break it like we did this one, all right, I would do the same thing, right? Train my, sorry, motion lights went out. All right, train my hand, come back here, make a circle that hits that, come back, all right, make a circle, just use the part that I want, go in and erase. Okay, erase whatever I don't need, whatever the guiding lines that I don't need anymore. All right, and now I've got cylinders going back in 1 point perspective. Okay, now if we want to make things like spheres, okay, going back in perspective, we can't stretch a sphere. Okay, right? We just learned about shading spheres. So we know that in order to make a circle into a sphere, we just have to shade it correctly. If we start stretching it, we make it completely different form. Okay, so there's some things that you can't physically take the shape back, but we can still show perspective. So we do the same thing we just did. Okay, do the same thing as far as lining up the vanishing point, going to the outermost edge. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, instead of making just another curve back here, is we're going to make full circles that hit that vanishing, or that hit those guiding lines at the same spot. All right. And what we're doing is we're making a row of spheres. Okay. At this point, I would erase all of the guiding lines for this. All right. We're not going to need any of them once we have our circles drawn. All right, now when you're doing this, obviously there's a lot of erasing. So you really have to be cognizant not to be drawing too dark, okay? Now right now what I have is a row of circles, right? So what we learned already is that I have to shade these things. So I'm just going to shade these real quickly just to give you an idea, okay? So and I know I'm not using the graphite technique that I taught you guys. This is something called hatching, which we'll get to down the road. It's just a little faster. All right, we can lay in our shadows. All right, so roughly that's what we're looking at. Okay, now you can play around with things. All right, let's say I wanted to make a sphere shooting through this shape. Okay, or not a sphere. Let's say I want to make a cylinder shooting through this shape. Could be a sphere, but whatever. So what I do is I make a circle that's beyond that shape. Okay, I go back, I do the same thing. All right, same thing I did before. I'm going to go to that outermost edge. All right, go to that outermost edge, bring it back. All right, I only really have to go as far as I want to go. All right, let's say I want to make it cut off here. All right, I would make that as much as I can. Okay. All right, and now I've got it shooting through that. All right, I just erase all the parts of the cube that are inside my new cylinder. Okay. All right, if I wanted to make, let's say, another cube that's coming through this cube, okay, I would do the same thing. All right, make my guiding lines going back. Okay, now in order for this cube to be inside of this one, this needs to be open. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to go back into this corner, right, because we need to open the end of this box, and we're going to draw that just until we hit another line. Okay, and then I can put the back onto this if I want to. Okay, and go from there. All right. All right, so that's, now I've got this shape coming through there. Again, I erase parts I don't want to see through it, and I go from there. Okay, so that's the basics of one-point perspective. Okay, there's a lot of things you can do with this. All right, but it's, again, horizon line, vanishing point, guiding lines, all right, and then knowing how to break off and draw the back end of things. Okay, if we were to do some shapes that are a little more challenging, let's say, okay, so we'll do this one first. All right, so right now I've got my horizon line lower on my page because, again, it doesn't have to go dead center. I've got my vanishing point shifted because, again, it doesn't have to go dead center, and I'm going to take these shapes back. So when I'm looking at something like this, right, I've got both curves and angles. All right, so I would take this back, find all these angles first. All right, with this shape, I'm not going to really have to worry too much about the curves as far as taking anything back. All right, you can see that this is it. This corner is right in line with that corner. All right, now again, we're going to make a line until we do what? Until we cut through another shape. So with this corner, I'm only going to make that until I hit another line. Okay, and then same thing with this one. I'm going to make that until I hit another line. So that shape would go back like that. Okay, now it gets a little tricky when it comes to cutting it off. All right, because of how this curve goes. So this one, if I replicate this curve, all right, I'm going to come down and get even with this line if I replicate that curve. So that curve is only going to be like that, okay? And then the back end of that would go like that, all right, right off of where that curve ends. Even though these converge, all right, I go to where that curve would end, and that's where I make that line, okay? All right. If I'm doing the S, all right, now I have to worry about outermost edges as if it's a circle, right, as well as angled corners. All right, I don't need to worry about this, right? I just need to go to those outermost edges. Again, make a line until it cuts into the shape. Okay, so that would be my S. All right, and again, if I wanted to cut it off, excuse me, I make this curve, then I make that line. All right, then I have to kind of go off of that to figure out where this curve would be. All right, now what I can do is I can do like we did on the last one. I can go to this curve and I kind of mark approximately where that is, and I could go up here real lightly, draw that there, make sure I'm at the right spot, and then go and make the rest of my curve. Okay, if I wanted to make another one off the back of that, I would definitely need to have that, because I need to know where this goes, right? I need to know where these lines are. So I'm going to draw more lines back here. Sorry again. These motion lights are very annoying, right? So I make the back end of that S, and I go back in here and I erase any and all guiding lines between and inside whatever I don't need. Okay, now I've got S's going back in perspective. All right, if I were to do, you know, a crazy shape like this, all right, it would be the same thing. All right, I'm going to connect all these lines back. All right, again, stopping whenever I hit another shape. All right, I do need to do this inside corner because it is more of a corner than a curve. If that was an inside curve, I wouldn't worry about it. All right, check these, check all these corners. I would cut in, I would cut in, I would cut in, I'd cut in, I'd cut in. This one I do, all right, just until I hit something else, and that would be that shape. Okay, and again, if I wanted to make the back end of it, repeat that line, repeat that line, repeat that line, repeat that line. And that would be the back end of that shape. Okay, doing the back ends is the part that tends to get people, all right, all tripped up on it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take this, you're going to practice this in your workbook. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that you can look at, a bunch of vocab and a bunch of examples, and then you're doing the pages that are listed in the PowerPoint. Okay, good luck with it. If you run into any issues at all, take a picture of what your issue is and text it to me. All right, and I'll get you sorted out. All right, good luck.